Have you ever noticed how walking into a messy kitchen can actually make you feel physically tired?
Oh, yeah, totally.
Right, like before you've even picked up a sponge or started cooking, or, on the flip side, how sitting in a completely clear, quiet room can suddenly make your racing thoughts just slow down.
It's a very real phenomenon.
Yeah. So today we're looking at why your floor plan isn't just about architecture or interior design. It's actually the silent operating system for your brain.
It is such a fascinating lens to look through. I mean, we spend so much time thinking about how to manage our time
Right.
or how to manage our digital devices, but we rarely apply that same level of psychological scrutiny to the physical spaces we inhabit every single day.
Yeah, we really don't.
We treat our homes like, well, storage units for our stuff and our bodies,
Yeah.
completely ignoring how those spaces are actively programming our moods and our behaviors.
Which brings us to the mission for today's deep dive. We are looking at a really unique source text today.
We are.
It's a short piece titled My House Emily. And interestingly, it came to us bundled with a basic vocabulary guide.
Yeah, very literal guide.
Exactly. Now, on the surface, this reads like a very simple, almost purely functional walkthrough of a small home. But when you start reading between the lines, you realize this text is a masterclass in intentional living.
Absolutely.
It's basically a detailed blueprint of how setting physical boundaries in your environment can fiercely protect your mental well-being. So, okay, let's unpack this, starting right at the physical boundary of the front door.
Right, so the text sets the scene very deliberately. From the outside, Emily's house is described as clean and quiet, with light-colored walls and a short path.
Mm-hmm.
And it comes with this vocabulary guide that literally defines an entrance as the place where people go into a building.
Which sounds incredibly basic.
It does. But psychologically speaking, that is a profound threshold. And Emily manages that threshold by keeping a few simple flower pots right near the entrance.
Right, I noticed that.
She specifically notes that they make the front of the house look warmer when she comes home.
And it feels so intentional, right? Because she's managing the transition from the chaotic, unpredictable outside world to her internal sanctuary. Those plants are acting as a visual cue.
They act as an emotional anchor.
Yeah.
When you think about minimalism, the popular image is often cold, clinical.
Just like bare white walls.
Exactly, just white walls and empty space. But here, the simplicity of the exterior is immediately contrasted with the organic warmth of the plants.
Oh, that's a good point.
It's a psychological trigger that signals to the brain, you are no longer in threat detection mode. You are safe. You are home.
And that philosophy spills right into the first room you enter, the living room.
Right.
She has a sofa, a low table, and a small bookshelf. But the critical strategy here is that she keeps, quote, only a few useful things there so the room feels open and easy to clean.
Yeah.
And when I read that, I immediately thought of a web browser.
Oh, really? How so?
Well, think about it. When you have 50 tabs open on your computer, your brain is silently keeping track of all of them, even the ones you aren't actively looking at.
Oh, for sure.
It's a massive drain on your computer's memory, and it drains your mental battery, too. Physical clutter in a living room works exactly the same way.
I see where you're going with this.
Right. Every single object in your line of sight, a stack of mail, a random gadget, like 5 decorative pillows, it's a physical tab demanding a tiny bit of your neurological attention.
That makes perfect sense.
So by keeping only a few useful things in that room, Emily is essentially closing all those unneeded browser tabs. She is actively preserving her mental bandwidth.
That is a brilliant way to frame it. Because neurologically, our visual cortex is constantly scanning our environment for affordances.
Affordances.
Basically what we can do with the objects around us. A book affords reading. A pile of laundry affords folding.
Oh, wow. Okay.
When your living room is packed with objects, your brain is constantly processing those affordances in the background. But the text says that on normal evenings, she just sits on the sofa with a cup of tea. She reads, watches a short video, or talks with her family.
And she can actually enjoy that cup of tea or, focus on that short video because there isn't a mountain of visual noise screaming at her from the coffee table.
Exactly.
The physical open space literally allows for mental openness.
It proves that an environment curated to support relaxation doesn't have to be complex. In fact, It really shouldn't demand maintenance or attention when you're trying to wind down.
I hear you on that, and it makes total sense for a room designed for sitting and drinking tea, but let's be real.
Oh,
It's relatively easy to keep a living room simple when its main function is passive relaxation. The true test of this philosophy is how it holds up in a room built for active execution.
the kitchen.
Yes,
Uh,
the most chaotic room of any
yeah.
house.
The kitchen is absolutely the proving ground for any organizational psychology. And the text doesn't shy away from this at all. Emily's kitchen is described as small and busy.
Very busy. I mean, she breaks down her daily meals. In the morning, she's making eggs, toast, noodles, or fruit with yogurt.
A full spread.
Yeah. And then after work, it's rice, vegetables, soup, or a meat dish. She talks about loving the smell of fresh food. But to pull off that level of constant cooking in a small space without losing your mind, I mean, that requires serious, rigid discipline.
It requires strict physical boundaries, which she has established down to an absolute science.
Right.
Plates and bowls go in one specific cabinet. Cooking pots live exclusively under the counter. Her spices are arranged on one small shelf.
Yeah, and the vocabulary guide jumps in here again.
Right. It gives us very literal definitions for these things. That cabinets have doors to keep things inside, that spices give food flavor. But if we elevate that, she is using these literal containers to create cognitive containers.
Okay, I have to jump in here and push back a little bit on the habit she describes next, because this is where I struggle.
Let's hear it.
She says that after cooking, she usually cleans the counter and washes the dishes immediately so the space is ready for the next meal. Now, if I have just spent the evening cooking soup and a meat dish after a 9-hour workday, doing the dishes right then doesn't feel like a grounding organizational exercise.
It's the last thing you want to do.
Exactly. It feels like a punishment. I want to sit down and eat my food while it's hot. How does she bridge that gap between exhaustion and discipline?
What's fascinating here is the underlying mechanism of that habit. Yes, in the moment, scrubbing a pot feels like a chore.
A huge chore.
But think about what happens in the brain when you wake up the next morning and walk into a kitchen full of dirty dishes.
Oh, I instantly feel stressed just thinking about it.
Right. It spikes your cortisol.
Yeah,
Your brain goes into task switching mode before you've even had a glass of water.
that is so true.
Because her kitchen is small, there is no margin for error. If she leaves the pots in the sink, the physical system collapses. Suddenly, making those simple morning eggs requires moving dirty pans, wiping down a greasy counter, and navigating chaos.
Right, you're fighting the room just to make breakfast.
Exactly. By forcing herself to wash the dishes immediately, she isn't just cleaning. She is eliminating a future obstacle.
I suppose that makes sense. It's less about the act of cleaning and more about removing friction for her future self.
Yes.
She is ensuring that when she wakes up groggy the next morning, the environment is welcoming her rather than demanding a task from her the second she walks in.
And returning to those strict physical boundaries, the dedicated cabinet for plates, the specific shelf for spices, this drastically reduces decision fatigue and spatial mapping.
Spatial mapping.
Yeah, like when you are cooking a complex meal, your brain doesn't have to spend any processing power searching for the salt. You know exactly where it is. The physical organization turns her cooking routine from a high-stress logistical puzzle into a rhythmic grounding exercise.
Okay, so the kitchen is all about managing physical systems under pressure. But where does she go for cognitive rest?
Right.
Like, if the living room is for bandwidth and the kitchen is for execution, where is the space for mental recovery?
That brings us to the bedroom. The text describes it as quiet and comfortable, with very few items. Just a bed, a small wardrobe, a small desk, and a lamp.
Very minimal.
But the most revealing detail regarding cognitive rest is her use of color. She deliberately uses soft colors because they help her feel calm.
It's like she's putting herself on a visual diet.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah, by reducing the intensity of the colors, she is lowering the amount of stimulation her brain has to process before sleep. And she applies this to her wardrobe too, right? The text notes her wardrobe is small, she folds things carefully, and she only keeps clothes she often wears, again, reducing decision fatigue for the next morning. But here's where it gets really interesting to me. Out of all the careful decorating and intentional minimalism, the most effective tool in her bedroom is completely analog. It's what she keeps on her bedside table.
Right.
A simple notebook and a pen.
A vital piece of her nightly routine.
She writes down small tasks for the next day before she goes to sleep because, in her words, it helps my mind feel clearer at night.
Yeah.
I think anyone listening right now can relate to that agonizing experience of lying awake in the dark, staring at the ceiling, just endlessly looping through tomorrow's to-do list.
Oh, it's the worst.
Did I email that client back? Do I need to buy a Mic? Do I have to call the bank?
Psychologists actually refer to this phenomenon as the Zeigarnik effect. Our brains have a tendency to remember incomplete or interrupted tasks far better than completed ones.
Which is incredibly annoying when you're trying to sleep.
It is. Because your working memory has a very limited capacity.
Mm-hmm.
When you try to hold on to unfinished tasks, your brain stays in an active, vigilant state.
It won't shut off.
It refuses to let you reach deep sleep because it is terrified you will forget to buy the milk or email the client.
So by physically writing the tasks down on paper, she is breaking that loop.
She is engaging in cognitive offloading. By externalizing the information onto the paper, she is proving to her brain that the tasks are safe.
The brain no longer has to actively manage them.
Exactly. The burden is literally transferred from her neurological network to the physical desk.
It's a perfect synthesis of space and psychology. The soft colors reduce the visual input, the curated wardrobe eliminates the morning decision fatigue, and the notebook offloads the cognitive burden.
Hmm.
Every single element in that room is relentlessly focused on one goal: deep, restorative rest.
But I imagine, listening to all this, it might start to sound a bit intimidating.
Intimidating is the word. It sounds so perfectly curated. And frankly, as someone who occasionally leaves clothes on a chair for a week,
We've all been there.
I was starting to wonder if Emily was even human. Like, what happens to all the extra stuff that doesn't fit neatly into her minimalist living room or her hyper-organized kitchen cabinets?
Well, every house has a shadow side. And in this text, it's the second bedroom, the catch-all room.
The junk room. I felt such a massive wave of relief reading this section. We all have one.
We do.
The text explicitly states this room has multiple uses. Sometimes a family member sleeps there, but mostly it is a storage space. It's for extra blankets, and the guide notes blankets are thick pieces of cloth that keep people warm, bags, and things they only use sometimes.
And crucially, the text admits that this room gets crowded quickly. It isn't a static, perfect space. It requires active intervention every few weeks.
But there is a line in this section that really stopped me. She says, "When I organize it, the whole house feels lighter."
Right.
I want to dig into that specific phrasing with you. Why does organizing just one secondary room, a room with the door probably closed most of the time, make the entire house feel lighter?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it goes back to how our brains map our environments. Think about your smartphone.
Okay.
Even if you aren't currently looking at a specific app, if you have a heavy, data-draining app running in the background, it is slowly killing your battery.
Oh, that makes total sense.
A crowded, disorganized room works the exact same way in your mind. Even with the door closed, your brain knows the mess is there.
It's just lurking.
Yes, it sits in your subconscious as unresolved business, continuously drawing a tiny bit of your processing power. The lightness Emily feels when she organizes it isn't physical weight being removed from the house.
It's the psychological relief.
Exactly. The psychological relief of closing that heavy background act. She is taking a chaotic space and bringing it back under her control.
And it isn't just that one room either. The text points out that the house has other, quote, ordinary messy corners.
Right.
The floor gets dusty. The sink sometimes fills with dishes despite her habit of washing them immediately.
Yeah.
Corners need organization. She isn't a robot executing a flawless program.
And she doesn't demand perfection from her space, which is a really important distinction. Minimalism and intentional living can sometimes turn into a toxic pursuit of perfection, where a single piece of mail on the counter feels like a failure.
Right, which totally defeats the purpose.
Emily doesn't do that. She manages these messy corners little by little, usually after dinner or on a weekend morning.
There's a real grace in how she handles the ordinary mess of living. It's a functional system, not a museum display.
Absolutely.
But amidst all this, the organizing, the cooking, the cognitive offloading, and the managing of background apps, I was looking for the moment where she just stops.
The pause.
Yeah, where's the pause? And we find it in what I think is the most beautiful detail in the entire source text, the window area.
It seems to be her favorite part of the house, despite being so incredibly simple.
Right. It's just a small space near a window that gets soft light during the day. She keeps a few green plants there. The text notes she waters them, but only when she touches the soil and it feels dry. And then she describes this habit. Sometimes she stands near the window for a minute before starting her work, just 1 minute.
Yeah.
And the result of that tiny action is that the house feels more alive.
It's a micropause, but the psychological leverage of that pause is immense.
So what does this all mean? When I read that part, I had to stop and ask myself, and I'd ask you listening right now to genuinely think about this. When was the last time you stood completely still for 60 seconds?
It's rare.
Not checking your phone, not mentally planning out your day, not listening to a deep dive, but just standing by a window to look at the light before starting your work. The power of that one single minute to shift your mindset is staggering.
This raises an important question about transition zones in our daily lives.
Yeah.
So often we just crash from one activity into the next.
We really do.
We wake up, grab the coffee, and immediately start answering emails. That window area isn't just a physical location for Emily, it is a dedicated transition zone.
A buff.
Yes. By pausing there, by physically touching the soil to see if it's dry, she is forcefully pulling her attention out of the future and anchoring herself entirely in the present moment.
She is literally grounding herself before the demands of the day begin.
Precisely. She is transitioning from the rest of the morning into the workday with absolute deliberate mindfulness. It proves the text's final summary. Her house is real, warm, and useful.
Yeah.
It's a simple place to cook, rest, think, and be herself. It doesn't need to be a grand mansion or architectural marvel to fulfill its ultimate purpose.
And I think that's the grand takeaway here. We've journeyed through this deceptively simple house and unpacked the heavy psychology behind it.
Yeah.
We've seen how keeping a minimalist living room isn't just about aesthetics. It's about protecting your mental bandwidth, exactly like closing tabs on a browser so your brain can actually relax.
We've looked at how utilizing strict physical boundaries in the kitchen, giving every pot and spice a permanent home, reduces decision fatigue. And how tackling those dishes immediately, despite the exhaustion, prevents the cortisol spike of a messy morning.
We've explored the neuroscience of cognitive offloading, using nothing more than a simple bedside notebook to empty your working memory so you can actually sleep.
Right.
We've talked about the grace of embracing the ordinary mess in the catch-all room and shutting down that background app draining your mental battery.
And perhaps most powerfully, we've seen the transformative nature of a 1-minute pause by window, using a physical space as a transition zone to anchor yourself in the present.
You, listening, you do not need a massive, complex, heavily engineered space to achieve a sense of peace. Simple systems and small intentional habits are more than enough. But before we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with one final thought to mull over.
Okay.
It's something that wasn't explicitly stated in the source text, but is the invisible thread tying all of this psychology together.
The unspoken truth of Emily's home.
Yes. Throughout this entire text, we read about how Emily shapes her house. She cleans the counters. She organizes the spices into their specific containers.
She paints the bedroom in soft colors.
Right, she deliberately waters the plants. But the profound reality of this source material is that her house is actually shaping her.
By setting up these physical boundaries, the open living room that demands nothing of her, the notebook by the bed that catches her worries, the window transition zone that forces a pause, the house is actively dictating her calm.
Wow, yeah.
It is guiding her routines and fiercely protecting her mental clarity.
Think back to that architectural floor plan we talked about at the very beginning. Those hard black lines on the blueprint aren't just walls or doorways. They are the framework for how you experience your life.
Well said.
So take a look around your own space today. Look at your living room, your kitchen, your messy corners. Are you just living inside those rooms, or are they acting as the silent architects of your daily mindset?